The sky was burning. Blue fire rained down from the clouds, and the once beautiful capital city of Veltorin was crumbling to ash. Towering buildings shook and collapsed as black alien gunships swarmed overhead, unleashing heavy plasma bursts. A crowd of unarmed civilians ran through the rubble, screaming, trying to find shelter where none remained. In the center of the chaos, a young alien named Kelrin clutched his little sister's hand. She was barely 6, her white skin was covered in dust and blood. "Don't look up," Kale whispered, pulling her along. Behind them, the last defense tower exploded. The Zeroin Dominion had come, and they weren't here to conquer. They were here to erase. 3 weeks earlier, the Alien Confederacy was at peace. They were not warriors. The Elons were scientists, healers, builders of light. They believed in peace treaties and trade. But peace meant nothing to the Zeroin. The Zeroin were a war-born species, still armored and bred in underground hives. They did not trade. They did not talk. They only moved when they wanted something. And now they wanted Veltorin. The Elons asked for help. They sent signals to the Galactic Council. They begged nearby species. They even offered gold, fuel, and ancient technology for protection. No one came. The galaxy had grown used to ignoring cries like this. The Elons were weak, and weak species were easy to forget. At the final outpost of Veltorin, High Speaker Thalan stood in the main control chamber. His white robes were torn, and his breath came in fast bursts. The walls shook around him. A screen showed the number of ships lost, 913. Another showed the number of refugees rescued, only 12,000. Millions were still trapped. His advisors stood, silent. "There must be someone," Thalan said, voice breaking. "Anyone left who will help?" One of the young techs, a pale female named Storie, checked a terminal. Her voice was quiet. "We've already sent distress signals to all major council worlds." No response. Thalan fell to his knees. "Then this is how we end." But then, another voice spoke. It came from an old, forgotten terminal, one no one had touched in years. Signal sent to Earth, receiving acknowledgement. The room went silent. Earth. That name hadn't been spoken in over 70 years. Once humans had tried to join the council, they were rejected. Uncivilized, they said. Dangerous, isolated. Then they vanished. No one had heard from Earth in decades. They had become nothing more than a Remora ghost world at the edge of known space. But the Elons remembered. Just before the humans went silent, they had made a promise to the alien leaders. "If you ever need us, send a beacon." Thalan stood slowly. "Is the signal confirmed?" "Yes," Storie said, eyes wide. "Earth has responded." 3 hours later. Above Veltorin, a new shape entered the sky. It did not flash. It did not roar. It simply appeared, blink into orbit like a shadow from beyond the stars. A ship, black as coal, longer than any alien vessel ever built. Its surface was covered in scars, armor, and strange ridged patterns like claws. It had no flags, no name, no colors, just a symbol on its hull. A single red skull with a slash through it. The Zeroin scanners picked it up first. Unidentified warship entering orbit. One captain shouted aboard the hivemind carrier Diaris. Another officer turned. "Is it council?" "No, it's human." Laughter broke out. "Human? There are no humans left in this quadrant. Tell the guns to shoot it down." But before they could lock on, the unknown ship fired first. A beam of red plasma, tight, narrow, precise, lanced down through the clouds and struck one of the Zeroin gun platforms. That it exploded instantly. 2 more followed. Then 5. The black ship didn't move. It simply floated in silence. But each time it fired, another Zeroin ship fell. No wasted energy. No flare. Just surgical violence. On the ground, Kelron held his sister tight as they ducked under a broken bridge. Then he saw it, the sky changing color. Something massive passed overhead. Silent but powerful. His sister whispered, "Is that ours?" Kale had no answer. Then the ground shook. But not from bombs. Dropships. Dozens of small armored dropships fell from the massive black cruiser. They didn't look like rescue vessels. They looked like weapons, and inside them were the Deathworlders commander. Suri Malik stood at the front of Drop Unit 1, fully armored. Her dark eyes scanned the HUD. Readings showed heavy resistance. Poor terrain. High risk. Good. She pulled her rifle from the wall and turned to her squad. "Welcome to Veltorin. Orders are simple." Her voice was calm, cold. "Save who you can. Kill everything that burns." The dropship hit the ground. The doors opened. And Death walked out. Zeroin units opened fire, but the humans moved faster than anything the Zeroin had seen. Suri's squad tore through bunkers, moving like shadows, leaving only silence behind. didn't just fight, they hunted. Their armor was designed for Earth's brutal weather, acid storms, volcanoes, magnetic pulses. On Veltorin, it was overkill. In the command tower, Thalen watched the footage. Who are they? Sorry answered with just one word. Deathworlders. By nightfall, half of Veltorin was free, Zeroin patrols were gone, air support destroyed, survivors rescued. And for the first time in weeks, the sky stopped burning. But Earth hadn't sent just one ship. It had sent 12, each one with its own Deathworlder team, and they weren't here to win a battle, they were here to end the war. Long before the stars belonged to anyone, there was Earth, a small, strange planet at the edge of a quiet arm in the galaxy. No precious metals, no strategic position, no council seat. But Earth had something else, something no other world dared to claim. Hell. Earth was a death world, a term used by the Galactic Council to mark planets too dangerous to colonize. Toxic weather, unstable tectonics, hostile wildlife, high gravity, radiation storms. The Council had labeled Earth with a red class hazard rating. Their official report said, not suitable for diplomatic integration, culture too volatile, survival too dependent on violence, recommendation, isolation. So they left Earth alone. But Earth didn't forget, and while the galaxy moved on, Earth evolved, quietly, fiercely, and it created something the Council had never prepared for, the Deathworld Protocol. It began as a secret. Earth's leaders knew they would never be welcomed, so they did not ask. They trained in silence, built fleets in silence, grew warriors in silence. And in the mountains of old Alaska, inside the frozen halls of Black Ridge Base, the first Deathworlder units were born. These weren't just soldiers, they weren't bred in tubes or made in labs. They were real men and women, volunteers, but only those who could survive the protocol. 6 phases, 3 years, 0 margin. Survival rate, less than 3%. Every recruit began their training with a question burned into the metal wall above their barracks. How do you survive a galaxy that ignores your voice? And the answer was whispered in every chamber. You make them listen to your silence. Now, those same Deathworlders stood on Veltorin, a world begging for rescue. Commander Storie, Malik led one of the first units ever deployed offered in over 40 years. Her team, 12 soldiers, all from different corners of Earth, all survivors. Each had one purpose, not peacekeeping, not politics, elimination. At the wreckage of the Zero Income Tower, 2 soldiers crouched in the dark. Victor, the heavy gunner, checked his rounds. Noah, the recon specialist, placed silent charges under a fuel line. Why do they always scream when we show up? Victor asked in a low tone. Because monsters aren't supposed to look like us, Noah answered with a grin. Then he pressed the detonator. The tower exploded behind them, controlled, focused, loud enough to shake a city block. Above the blast, the Zero-Wing commander, General Koresh, watched from a gunship window. His claws gripped the control rail tightly. These humans, he hissed, they are not standard infantry. No, General, his second said quietly. There's something else. Koresh snarled. I want the Deathworlders wiped out. All of them. But sir, they're spread out. They don't follow normal formation. Then burn the whole area. The order was given. The Zero-In would torch the last quarter of Veltorin to stop the humans. But humans had grown up with fire. Storie and her team were already moving before the first flames fell. They cut through buildings like ghosts. No wasted shots. No shouting. Each Deathworlder carried a unique weapon. Not council tech. Homemade. Heavy. Deadly. Suri. Single quotes ozone rifle was forged in New Delhi. Its barrel made from reinforced starship scrap, with heat sinks built for Venus-like temperatures. She moved like the wind, silent, sharp, final. At the alien refugee camp in the deep caverns, Kelron watched the ground above shake. He huddled beside his sister. Are they losing? She asked softly. He shook his head. No, the humans don't lose. How do you know? Because the Zero-In looks scared now. In orbit, Earth's second fleet arrived. Not warships, command vessels. A message was sent from Earth, short and clear. Deathworld Protocol activated, full deployment authorized, across nearby star systems. Listening posts picked up the signal. The Galactic Council was silent. No one knew what Earth would do next. But every empire that once mocked Earth's silence was now watching. And worried. Inside the underground control room of Zero-In Fortress Galath, General Koresh tried to regroup. Maps flickered. Drones failed. Radio went dead. Report. He barked. One officer spoke softly. They're not attacking from the front. They've entered the lower tunnels. They're inside. Koresh's breath stopped. In how many locations? The officer looked up. All of them. It wasn't war anymore. It was judgment. Storie and her squad moved through the fortress, using thermal optics and silent weapons. They didn't kill for sport. They killed because it was necessary, not for revenge, for warning. At dawn, Veltorin stood quiet. The fires had stopped. The skies had cleared. Zero-in forces were gone, either dead or fleeing into deep space, and Earth's black flag flew from the tallest spire. It had no colors, no symbols, just a single white word: enough. In a council chamber light years away, ambassadors watched the feed in disbelief. One turned and whispered, "What have we awakened?" Another said, "We laughed at Deathworlders." The last one, the oldest among them, answered, "And now the galaxy bleeds silence." The smoke still hung in the air. 3 days had passed since the Deathworlders retook Veltorin, but the wind still carried the scent of burnt steel and broken lives. The Elons had returned from hiding, carefully stepping through the ruins of their once great city. But Veltorin wasn't a city anymore. It was a graveyard. And yet, it wasn't silent. Because Earth was still there. The Deathworlders hadn't left. They stood watch, patrolling rooftops, guarding underground hospitals, helping clear rubble with machines built for war but now used to rebuild. To the L. These humans looked like monsters, but now they felt like guardians. Kelron stood beside Commander Suri Malik near the base of the old crystal spire. His sister held Surie's hand, oddly calm. Kale cleared his throat. "We didn't think anyone would come." Surie said nothing. Kale tried again. "You didn't have to stay. The Zero-in are gone. You could leave." Surie finally looked at him. Her voice was calm but cold. "They're not gone, they're just moving." Kale blinked. "You're following them?" "No, we're hunting them." Far away, on the outer rim of the alien system, a human scout ship hovered above a shattered moon. The pilot, Lieutenant Diaz, zoomed in on surface scans. "Command, this is Eco 7, confirming a mass burial site. Zero-in signatures. Thousands of Elaine corpses." Silence. Then Command replied, "Confirmed. Mark coordinates. Return to Veltorin." Diaz shook his head. "No sir, I think I found something else." His camera panned to a dark mountain pass near the craters. Dozens of black containers sat half buried. In the dirt he zoomed in. Inside were living prisoners, Alones, emaciated, shackled. Diaz whispered. They weren't just killing them, they were taking them. Back on Veltorin, Storie stared at the new feed with cold eyes. Her voice echoed through the Deathworlder camp. "Packlight. We move in 2 hours, no questions, no arguments." The hunt was back on. The squad dropped on the barren surface of Alan Moonfire near the mass site. No oxygen. High winds, hazard rated. Perfect for Deathworlders. The moment they landed, they moved like shadows, checking containers, breaking locks, lifting survivors into med-shuttles. They found 147 Elons alive, and beside them, they found Zero-in computers, with logs-coded transmissions between high command units. The messages were clear. Specimens useful. Test phase nearing success. Targeting human DNA next. Storie froze. Earth had always wondered what the Zero-in truly wanted. Now they knew. They weren't fighting for resources, they were fighting to become something more by stealing it from others on Earth. Deep inside Black Ridge Base, the Council of Deathworld Command watched the broadcast in silence. Then General Ashcroft, the man who first signed the protocol, stood. "This is no longer a defense operation, this is now a genocide prevention mission." Authorizations were unlocked. Restrictions lifted. And Earth sent the order across the galaxy. Full Deathworlder deployment. Phase 2. Across 12 systems, Deathworlder ships launched, but not thousands. Only hundreds. Because you didn't need thousands of humans, you just needed Deathworlders. In a council chamber light years away, the ambassador of the Carthan Empire stood and shouted, "Earth is escalating. They'll destabilize the region." Another voice said, "No, Earth is doing what we wouldn't. They're rewriting the rules, or restoring them." Silence, because none of them had lifted a finger when the Elions cried for help. But now that Earth was moving, they all wanted to talk. Back on Elion Moon 5, the survivors wept as medics gave them food, oxygen, and warmth. One Elion doctor gripped a soldier's arm and asked, "Why are you helping us?" The soldier, a large man named Luca, smiled, "Because we've seen what monsters do when no one stops them. And we come from a planet full of monsters." The alien didn't understand. Luca just laughed. "You'll see." That night, Storie stood alone outside the base. Stars twinkled above the broken land. She opened a secure channel to Earth. "This is Commander Suri Malik, requesting strike clearance on the Zero-in breeding fleet." A voice answered after a pause. "Clearance granted." She exhaled. "We warned them, they didn't listen." In the distance, Above the shattered surface of Moon 5, 10 human cruisers arrived, each one bigger than a city, each one carrying the kind of firepower that ended wars before they began. Veltorin was only the beginning. Now Earth was answering the whole galaxy, and the Deathworlders were just getting started. The moon was called Keralus, covered in thick, endless jungle. It was known as the Green Shield of the Zeruan Dominion. Giant trees grew 100 meters tall. Mist rolled across mossy cliffs. Under the canopy, shadows moved like predators. Zeruan made Keralus their command base for the region. Hidden bunkers, armored towers, and thousands of troops were buried under the vines. They thought no army could fight their dot. They were right. No army could survive in that jungle. But Earth didn't send an army, it sent Deathworlders. Commander Suri Malik and her squad dropped from low orbit, silent as falling leaves. The jungle swallowed their landing. No alarms, no bright lights, just shadows moving in silence. 12 humans entered the jungle, each one trained to kill in conditions worse than this, because Earth's forests weren't peaceful. They were full of poisonous plants, hungry animals, and storms that tore trees from the ground. Compared to Earth, Keralus was a walk in the park. Zoun patrols began disappearing within hours. At first, the Dominion commanders thought it was wildlife. Then a scout drone found the bodies. Not just killed, cleaned, precise. Bullet wounds, no blast damage, no weapons stolen, only footprints leading deeper into the forest. Human footprints. The Zeruan began to panic. They sent 20 squads to search. None came back in the trees above. Suri watched through her scope. Below, a Zeruan platoon moved through the brush, weapons ready. She tapped her earpiece. Noah, right flank. You see them? Noah's calm voice answered, already lined up. Fire. A single shot cracked through the jungle. The Zeruan commander dropped, then another. Before the squad could react, 6 were dead. The rest ran, but the jungle didn't let them escape. At night, the Deathworlders moved like smoke. Luca set traps using tripwires and fusion grenades. Victor placed silent mines in water paths. Noah climbed higher, setting motion sensors in the tree Konos. By dawn, the jungle belonged to Earth. Deep under the forest, inside the Zeruan base, Commander Valeth growled at his generals. Why haven't they been caught? One general whispered, they don't come in numbers, they don't follow paths, they just strike, send the flamers, burn the forest down. Another officer stepped forward, shaking. Sir, they're using the fire against us. Valeth turned. What do you mean? At that same moment, in the outer zone, Deathworlder teams lit small controlled fires. The smoke rose fast, clouding Zeruan sensors. The fires drove wildlife toward enemy positions. And through the smoke, the humans moved unseen. One by one, Zeruan bunkers began to vanish. Explosions rocked the ground, and then Earth did the unthinkable. They hacked the Zeruan defense grid and used Zeruan guns against them. By the third day, half of Keralus command base was in ruins. The Dominion tried to evacuate. Only one ship made it off the ground. Suri's team shot it down in the heart of the jungle. Near the command spire, the final confrontation took place. Suri led her team through the smoke and vines, finding the control room buried under tree roots and stone. Inside, Commander Valeth was waiting. Your kind is finished, he growled. Suri stared at him. No, we're just getting started. Valeth fired first. Suri didn't move. Noah took the shot for Hef from behind. Valeth's thrown. Clean. Silent. Suri stepped forward and picked up a data core from the console. It held maps, fleet locations, civilian prison coordinates, everything. Earth needed to end this war. Back on Earth, the generals watched the feed. One of them smiled. We don't need planets, he said. We don't need bases. We just need our people. The jungle moon of Keralus burned behind them, not in chaos, in victory. The Deathworlders had walked into the Dominion's secret fortress, and walked out without losing a single soldier. In a council chamber far away, alien empires whispered in fear. They're not conquerors, they're not invaders. Then what are they? A silent message came through the council channels. From Earth. We are what comes after peace fails. The galaxy was listening, from the icy moons of the Polari Commonwealth to the golden cities of the Valari clans. Everyone now watched the war between Earth and the Zeruan Dominion. But it wasn't just a war anymore. It had become a lesson, a message written in fire, told by a species once forgotten. And now, everyone wanted to hear Earth's voice, but Earth didn't speak. Not yet. Instead, the voice came from someone smaller, someone no one expected. High Speaker Thalan stood before the Galactic Council's emergency session. His alien robes were still torn from Veltorin's fall. His eyes were tired, but his voice was strong. He stood alone in the center of a vast chamber, surrounded by delegates from 50 alien worlds. The air buzzed with whispers and judgment, and then silence. Thalen raised his hand and began to speak. You ignored our calls for help. You heard our screams, and you looked away. But Earth did not. He took a step forward. You called humans dangerous. You feared what they might become. But now you should fear why they fight. Whispers grew louder. Some delegates looked uncomfortable. We asked for shields. They sent warriors. We asked for protection. They sent Deathworlders. You called them monsters. But in our darkest hour, they became our heroes. That speech reached across 100 systems. Broadcasts translated it into every language. And for the first time in years, the Galactic Council couldn't stop it, because the truth had already spread. The weak remembered Earth's silence, and now they celebrated its return. On a far-off moon, inside a Zero-In fortress, the Dominion leaders gathered. Commander Koresh, still recovering from the Veltoran defeat, slammed his fist on the table. They're trying to break our will with speeches. Now, another officer replied, our forces have lost 12 colonies in 3 weeks. Every human strike ends in total loss. A third added, we must surrender, before they reach the core worlds. Koresh turned slowly. His eyes burned with fury. We don't surrender to prey. But not all Zero-In agreed. A secret message left. The fortress hidden in a diplomatic channel. It traveled in silence, jumped across black holes, bent through wormholes, until it reached Earth. It was simple. Cease your advance. Send a representative. We will listen. On Earth, in a quiet room deep beneath Black Ridge Base, General Ashcroft read the message twice. Then he turned to Suri Moloch, still in full armor, standing at attention. He handed her a black box. Deliver this to them. Suri nodded. Inside? Asked another officer. Ashcroft looked out the window toward the stars. A chance. Suri's ship entered Zero-In space under a white flag, a show of peace. Alone. Unarmed. But it wasn't a mistake, because humans didn't bring peace without warning, and they didn't come empty-handed. Inside the box was a single item, a recording. Not words, not a treaty, a video. Of the forest moon of Keral is. Of the burning fortresses, of the Deathworlders walking through fire without fear. A single sentence appeared on the screen. This is what we do when we're patient. Then another. Imagine what happens when we're angry. The Zero-In leaders watched it in silence. And one by one, they left the room. Not to fight, not to plan, but to prepare their worlds for surrender. Only Koresh remained. He stared at the screen, face twisted with rage. They think we're done, he growled. Then we'll show them what happens when we fight without rules. At the edge of Zero-On space, human satellites picked up strange signals. Unusual movements. Ships going dark, weapons being loaded into stealth carriers, and one final message from Earth's spy drone. Zero-In preparing counterstrike, not at Earth, at the allied worlds. They weren't going to face the humans head-on. They were going to punish those Earth protected. Back on Veltoran, Sori's ship returned. Kelran met her at the landing pad. You brought them peace? He asked. Sori stepped off the ramp. No. She looked up at the sky. I gave them a warning. They chose war. Across Earth's fleet, alarms blared. Commanders prepared for the worst. Deathworlders locked down their armor, because now, the Zero-In weren't just fighting humans, they were punishing Earth's friends. But Earth had learned something too. Every time it had stayed silent in the past, innocents died. That would not happen again. The war was over, but silence was not peace. For the first time in galactic history, the stars held their breath. The Zero-In Dominion was gone. Their homeworld had surrendered 2 days after Koresh's death. Their fleets scattered, their leaders captured or executed. The fear they once spread was now only ash. But no one was celebrating, not yet, because Earth hadn't said a word. The Galactic Council waited. Would the humans pull back? Would they claim new worlds? Would they now take revenge on everyone who ignored them before? They waited for a message, a threat. Anything. Earth said nothing. Instead, Earth buried its dead. In a high field on the slopes of Black Ridge, a long line of flags waved in the wind. Each one held a name. No titles, no ranks, just names. The Rathburn who didn't return, the Deathworlders who had given everything, the civilians. Earth had lost to Zero-In fire. Sori Malik stood alone at the center. She held her helmet under her arm. Her armor was scarred. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned. Elons from Veltoran arrived first, bringing flowers grown in fire-rich soil. Polari monks came next, planting crystals that hummed softly with peace. Even old enemies from forgotten wars stood in silence. One by one, they placed small stones at the base of the memorial, not as gifts, but as apologies. The galaxy had expected monsters instead. It saw something worse, humans who bled, and still fought, and still forgave. 3 weeks later, Earth finally sent a message, not to the Council, not to the press, just one quiet transmission, broadcast openly translated into every language. It said, "We came when no one else would. We answered a cry that wasn't ours. We fought not for power, but because someone had to. We don't want your worlds. We don't need your thrones. We want only this. Never forget who stood up when it mattered. And know this, if evil rises again, we will rise louder." The message ended, and something strange happened. Across 50 systems, no one spoke, no one challenged it, because every species now understood a truth that could no longer be denied. Humanity was real, humanity was back, and death. They were the line between light and fire. Kelron stood on the green hills of Veltorin, watching children play under rebuilt towers. He whispered to an old friend nearby, "You know, they were right." "About what?" the friend asked. Kale smiled. "They said humans were dangerous, but not because they brought war, because they fought like no one else ever had, with heart, with fury, and with hope." Somewhere far above, on a forgotten moon, an old Zeroan survivor sent a message into deep space. It had no coordinates, no target, just a warning burned into code. "If you plan to challenge this galaxy, be ready for the world that waits in silence, because Earth never runs." The Zeroin had made their choice. They would not face Earth in open war. They would not fight with honor. Instead, they turned their weapons toward the weak, small colonies, refugee planets, medical transports, the places Earth had sworn to protect. One by one, those places went dark, crushed, burned, erased. But the Zeroin weren't using their own armies anymore. They had made something new, something not even the Council had seen before. The Blackburn. The first sighting came from the moon Dravis 9 Amp, peaceful outpost with only a few thousand civilians, mostly Elons and humans. No defenses, just trade. Then the sky turned black. Sensors picked up movement, but no heat signatures. Ships with no lights, creatures inside with no pulse. When the creatures landed, they did not speak. They did not scream. They just started killing. Kelron saw the message from Dravis 9 before the signal died. Static screams, then a dark shape passing over the camera to large. Too fast. A human soldier standing beside him whispered, "What was that?" Kale turned away, shaking. "I don't think even Earth has seen this before." Back at Black Ridge Base, Earth's command watched the recordings, and for the first time, since the protocol was written, there was silence in the war room. General Ashcroft spoke softly. "They built monsters." Sari Malik stood at the front of the room. "No," she said. "They built a mirror." The Deathworlders were sent in, not just Sori's team, all of them, Earth's worst and best, over 1,000 operatives, scattered across systems. They didn't land on the Blackburn worlds. They infiltrated. The first confirmed kill came from a frozen moon called Braca. A Blackburn pack had torn through a science post, leaving no survivors. But when they came to the next outpost, they found it already on fire. A single human stood in the flames. Armor smoking, blade glowing red. Lieutenant Myra Voss. She didn't run, she didn't shoot, she walked toward them. The camera feed only lasted 20 seconds, but when the next scout arrived, 17 dead Blackburn, 1 injured human. Still standing. Word spread the Blackburn were deadly, fast, strong, cold, but Deathworlders. They were something worse, focused, angry, alive. On the volcanic planet Cernax, Victor and Noah from Ceres' squad held off a swarm of 50 Blackburn using only fire traps and close-quarter weapons. In the gas giant Hala's belt, Luca used asteroid debris to turn a whole Blackburn transport into scrap metal, and on Veltorin, Sori received orders from Earth. Kill teams authorized, no limits, end this. But the war was changing. Sori knew it. This wasn't just about tactics anymore. The Zeroin had abandoned all rules, and Earth was done playing nice. So Sori sent a message across every secure human channel. 3 words: unleash the protocol. What came next was something Earth had prepared for, but never used. A final phase of the Deathworlder program. Phase 7, codenamed Rathburn. 10 units. Hand-selected. Each one trained in conditions that broke normal humans. They weren't just soldiers, they were weapons. And now they were loose. On a dead world called Ru 5, a Blackburn stronghold stood tall and untouched, guarded by thick towers and living walls. Then the sky turned red. A Rathburn team landed in silence. By dawn, the stronghold was gone. Only smoke remained. Zero and High Command finally understood. They hadn't made something new. They had awakened something old. A force bred by a world no species could survive naturally. A species that smiled while bleeding, fought without rest, and never forgot who struck first. General Koresh stood on the bridge of his last dreadnought, watching death reports from 20 systems. He growled, "You want a monster, I'll give you one." His ship vanished into the void. Destination, Earth. But Earth wasn't waiting. Not anymore. Because the galaxy now knew one truth. If you make war like monsters, Earth will answer like something worse. The stars around Earth had never been this quiet. No incoming ships. No alarms. No warnings. But everyone in Black Ridge Base knew something was coming. Because General Koresh, the last living Zero-in warlord, was missing. And when a monster disappears, it only means one thing. He's preparing to strike. Across Earth, cities were calm. Children went to school. Ships flew over rooftops. Lights blinked across steel towers. But deep below the surface, the real Earth was awake. The Deathworld defense grid came online. Satellites moved into new positions. Old weapons, sleeping since the first expansion war, powered up. And inside Command Core 9, General Ashcroft stood with his hand near the Red Seal. "We don't know when," he said, "but we know where." Suri Malik stood beside him, armored and ready. "Then we make it the last mistake he ever makes." Above Saturn's rings, a signal was received. A stealth drone saw it first. One single massive ship, larger than anything Earth had recorded. It wasn't a fleet. It was one ship, Koresh's dreadnought, the Spear of Zero in 50 kilometers long, carrying weapons made from stolen worlds. It wasn't here to conquer, it was here to erase. Back on Earth, a team of Rathburn specialists met under blackout conditions. Victor Noah, Lucor waiting. The old protocol was brought out. Project named Home Fire. It wasn't just defense, it was something worse, something Earth had hidden even from its allies. Suri entered the Rathborn hangar. 10 suits waited, each one built for war above planets. She walked toward the largest one. Her fingers touched the steel. It was old tech designed for one mission only: protect Earth at all costs, even if it means destroying everything around it. Luca smiled. "We get to use these finally." Suri nodded. "Let's make it count." The Spear of Zero and exited FTL just outside Jupiter's shadow. Every system screamed. Earth's sky lit up with defense codes. But Koresh didn't launch missiles. He didn't fire weapons. He opened a channel and spoke. "Earth, you made yourself the enemy. You should have stayed in your cage." Ashcroft replied from command. "You should have stayed away from our planet." The battle began. But it wasn't like the others. Because Earth wasn't defending colonies anymore, it was defending itself. All ships were recalled. Every Deathworlder in space turned and burned toward home above Earth's upper orbit. The first shots were exchanged. But Koresh's ship was more than a battleship, was a fortress. Its hull shrugged off plasma, its shields bent railgun fire, and then it fired. The first blast hit lunar base. A quarter of the moon shattered. Then it turned toward inside Earth's atmosphere. Rathburn units launched in high-altitude jump pods. Their target breached the dreadnought. Suri's pod landed first, crushed through outer armor. Her team followed. Inside the Spear, the air was thick with chemical fog. ZERU guards waited, but they weren't prepared for humans who didn't stop. Every hallway became a grave. Every wall painted with fire. Suri fought through to the central core. There she found him, Koresh, taller than any human, covered in armor made from conquered species. He smiled. "So, you're Earth's final answer." Suri raised her weapon. "No, I'm the warning you ignored." The fight wasn't clean, it wasn't fast. Koresh was strong, enhanced with tech and stolen DNA. He broke Noah's leg. He threw Victor into a wall of steel, but the Rathburn kept getting up because Earth didn't raise warriors to win, it raised them to finish. Finally, Suri reached the detonation core. She opened the black box inside. The home fire key. She turned it. A pulse shot through the dreadnought. Its systems froze. Koresh screamed, lunging toward her, but Luca's shot took him down. 3 hits to the chest, 1 to the head. Koresh dropped his empire with him. The Spear of Zero exploded in orbit, but Earth's shields held. Below, people looked up at the sky and saw only light. Didn't know what had almost happened. They didn't need to, because Earth's monsters had done their job again in the council chambers far away. No one laughed at Earth anymore. They didn't fear what humans might do. They feared what might happen if they stopped.